afternoon, everyone. You're listening to the CanVets Radio Report on WVOX AM 1460 and heard around the world on WVOX.com. This is Jack McGuirk with Ken Cracer bringing you this half-hour discussion of issues related to veterans and the active military. Now, here's Ken.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone listening to CanVets Media on WVOX. We cover cadets, midshipmen, the military, and veterans, and also Iona College basketball, Iona University basketball. I'm going to get used to saying that yet. Glad we've got a warm day out there. A great drive down Pine Brook Boulevard in New Rochelle. And today in our guest segment, at 2:48, we have one of our long-standing guests, Rear Admiral Terrence McKnight, 31-year veteran of the U.S. Navy, commanded amphibious assault ships, USS Kearsarge. He also commanded a task force that fought the Somali pirates about 12 years ago. He actually called in from his ship one time to talk to us here on WVOX. That was still maybe the most extraordinary thing we've ever done on our show. But he's works for a company in Washington. We see him at some of the military conferences, and so he's going to give us insight on what's happening on the balloon incident, North Korea, kind of the relationship with China, naval exercises between Russia and South Africa and China has been going on. So a lot to talk about. And so Jack, you go ahead with your report.
All right, start off with what's happening in Ukraine. Over the weekend, Russia launched 4 cruise missiles at Ukraine from the Black Sea. That was on Saturday. This is according to the Air Force Command of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Said that on Saturday, saying that on February 18th, Russian-occupied forces launched 4 Caliber-type cruise missiles at Ukraine from the Black Sea area. 2 missiles were intercepted by air defense. Andriy Yermak, the head of the Office of Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, said Russia is using strategic aircraft in the airspace over occupied territories, in particular, launching missiles. Also, over last week, the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, was in Germany, and she announced that the United States had determined that Russian military is committing crimes against humanity in its invasion of Ukraine. She made those remarks during her speech at the Munich Security Conference in Germany, saying that the United States has formally determined that Russia has committed crimes against humanity. And the Munich Security Report, which was released February 13th, includes exclusive data and graphics on current security policy issues, but hones in on the authoritarian regimes of the global platform, as highlighted by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Also, Ukrainian troops wrapped up first rotation of battalion combined arms training at the U.S. Army garrison in Bavaria, that's in Germany, training area last week. Approximately 635 Ukrainians completed the approximately 5-week period of instruction, which included basic soldier tasks like marksmanship, along with medical training, squad platoon and company training, and the battalion force-on-force exercises. This is from Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryder, Pentagon spokesperson. Training focused on the M2 Bradley fighting vehicle, and the rotation is part of an ongoing effort designed to help the Ukrainians' battlefield abilities to, as they go into a second year of beating back Russia's invasion. So we talked about the use of these armored vehicles and tanks in Ukraine, and now the Ukrainians are training with the M2 Bradleys in Germany.
Well, it's good to see the Russians have been making an offensive over the last week to 10 days, and heavily infantry-led. And from what we're hearing, they're getting mauled by the Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. I mean, the casualties on the Russian side, if you can understand that Ukraine reports, and we've heard from independent reports, is it's not going well for the Russians on this offensive. But what is working, and what was so important, what you said, is the Russians fired 4 missils off of their ships in the Black Sea, mm-hmm. and the Ukrainians knocked down 2 of them.
Correct.
We're going to talk to our guests about what it takes to do that in the second segment. But the point I've been hearing is that Ukrainians are constantly saying they're running out of ammunition and asking for it to be expedited delivery from anybody, from any of the allies, NATO members.
Absolutely. You talked about before in previous shows how both the Ukrainians and the Russians are going through thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition every single day. So, we'll have to keep an eye on that story. Now, switching gears a little bit, the U.S. military said Friday that it has ended its search for airborne objects that were shot down near Dead Horse, Alaska, and over Lake Huron, February 10th and the 12th. The statement came hours after officials said the U.S. had finished efforts to recover the remnants of the large balloon that was shot down February 4th off the coast of South Carolina. An analysis of the debris reinforces conclusions that it was a Chinese spy balloon. Northern Command said that the decision to end the search for the objects shot down over Alaska and Lake Huron came after the U.S. and Canada conducted systematic searches of each area using a variety of capabilities, including airborne imagery and sensors, surface sensors, and inspections and subsurface scans, and didn't locate the debris. And while the military is confident that the balloon shot down off South Carolina was a surveillance airship, it's believed that possibly one of the objects shot down over Canada and Alaska was actually a hobbyist balloon. There was a group in Illinois that said they were missing a balloon. And just to give you a little comparison here, these balloons that hobbyists use, they can cost like $12 when you buy them, as compared to the missiles that were used to shoot them down, which run about $400,000 a piece, these missiles.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective on the cost of the missile. And now the United States, after letting the Chinese balloon travel all the way across the country and then destroyed it off the South Carolina coast, is now going for anything that looks like a balloon. And more and more, you're hearing reports that there are a lot of weather balloons and a lot of balloons that are used for all sorts of purposes, and some are hobbyist balloons, and they lose them. So now the Strategic Air Command and NORAD is chasing these hobbyist balloons with the, you go after what the cost of the airplane is to be in the air for an hour. It's like $100,000 an hour for a fighter jet to be in the air.
WVOX.
So they're adjusting the radar to make sure they pick up on these balloon type objects. But it's interesting they didn't release any of the three balloons they knocked down, but they said they couldn't find any of the three.
I'm gonna
and they're not
put
so
you
they
on
can't
hold.
show
You're
any of the
gonna
balloons. It's kind of interesting
talk in
that
the
they
next
couldn't find
segment.
debris from one of the three balloons.
Indeed, and that went off South Carolina. I was just talking about the Navy Coast Guard finished collecting the remnants from that Chinese high-altitude surveillance balloon.
Okay, thank you.
And the final pieces of debris are being transferred to an FBI laboratory in Virginia for counterintelligence exploitation, and has occurred with previous service and subsurface debris recovered by the U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard in that area. And the ships, you have the USNS Pathfinder, the missile destroyer USS Oscar Austin, and the Philippine Sea were also on the scene just after the crash.
I love hearing about those two ships because they're frequent visitors to New York City Fleet Week.
Absolutely, but so they collected all the remnants from that balloon. Now, shifting gears, North Korea said Sunday conducted a test of intercontinental ballistic missile a day earlier. Third known test of long-range weapons in less than a year. The state-run Korean Central News Agency said a Hwasong-15 ICBM was fired, and the missile flew about 614 miles for almost 67 minutes to an altitude of 5,768 kilometers, about 3,584 miles, and landed in the sea. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said the missile fired landed inside Japan's exclusive economic zone west of the northern main island of Hokkaido, sparking condemnation from the U.S. and the ICBM.
How high did that missile go?
Reached an altitude of about, it says 3,584 miles. So pretty high.
That's pretty high. I mean, space, where the space shuttle goes and the International Space Station is only like a couple hundred miles. And this went a couple of thousand. That's interesting. I mean, that's one of the things we were trying to find a guess, and maybe Admiral McKnight can explain a little bit of that. How you could fire a missile that high and have it only go out at, what would it go, 600 miles out from the country, from North Korea? And this time it went into Japanese water, and the Japanese are not happy about it. And the Americans aren't happy about it either. So, but what are you going to do about shutting down North Korea at this point?
Indeed. And sad story out of Alabama. 2 experienced Tennessee Guard warrant officers died in a Black Hawk military helicopter crash near Huntsville, Alabama. Now, both of them were warrant officers, were assigned to company 230th Assault Helicopter Battalion at a Berry Airfield and Air Force National Guard base in Nashville, Tennessee. The crash occurred about 3 p.m. Wednesday, about 15 miles south of the state's border with Tennessee. The Black Hawk helicopter is primary medium-lift helicopter for U.S. Army, performing a wide range of missions that encompass air assault, medevac, combat search and rescue, combat control, and VIP transport. But sad story there out of Huntsville, Alabama. Our friend Colonel Sam Houston is in that area. Huntsville's
a big Army research center. It's where the Saturn rockets were developed. Many of the missile programs are developed there in Huntsville. It's actually a big center for the U.S. Army.
And Secretary of the Navy Carlos del Toro renamed the Naval Academy building. It was formerly named for a member of the Confederacy, renaming it after former President Jimmy Carter, the only president to graduate from the Naval Academy. Only 3 presidents have graduated from service academies. You had Jimmy Carter, and then you had Eisenhower and Grant, both from West Point. But they renamed the building at the Naval Academy after the former president, who was a member of the class of 1946. And we got the sad news of the weekend.
Yeah.
He's 98 years old, and he's going to be entering hospice care, the former president. So
yeah, he's been dealing with cancer for a number of years, and has gotten some treatment which has helped. But sadly, it's maybe going towards the end. But yeah, former President Jimmy Carter, a Navy submarine officer. He worked in the under Admiral Rickover when they were developing some of the early submarines in the 1950s, and went on to work in government and advance to become president.
Indeed, and quick congratulations to the Army baseball team. We had their head coach, Chris Trax, on the show. And over the weekend, they opened their season with a 3-game series in Texas against Air Force. And they won that series, first 2 games of that series. But Air Force won the third one. But nice win there for the first series of the season for the Army baseball team, Ken.
Yeah. Army men's basketball won over Lafayette on Saturday. The women's basketball, West Point won. And wrestling lost to Navy on Sunday. I was up at the match.
You're listening to the Campus Radio Report at WVOX 94060, heard around the world on WVOX.com. We'll be right back after this brief Fox News break, so stay tuned.